The federal government has initiated diplomatic talks with the United States following allegations by American lawmakers accusing Nigeria of state-backed persecution of Christians. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed that it has reached out to the U.S. government to reject claims contained in a new bill sponsored by Texas Senator Ted Cruz titled the Nigeria Religious Freedom Accountability Act of 2025. The bill seeks to redesignate Nigeria as a country of particular concern and impose sanctions including visa bans and asset freezes on Nigerian officials allegedly complicit in religious persecution.
Senator Ted Cruz, supported by other Republican lawmakers, claimed that over 52,000 Christians have been killed in Nigeria since 2009 and accused the Nigerian government of complicity through weak enforcement and blasphemy laws. The lawmakers are also pushing for restrictions on U.S. aid and arms sales until Nigeria demonstrates compliance with religious freedom standards. Responding, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Kim Miebi Ebienfa said Nigeria has engaged the United States through diplomatic missions in Washington and Atlanta, providing a detailed report commissioned by Foreign Minister Yusuf Tugar to counter what it describes as misrepresentations. He emphasized that violence in Nigeria affects all groups and is not targeted at any religion. Join us this morning for this very important conversation is former Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Joe Keshe. One welcome to you and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central.
Thank you and good morning.
Now, Ambassador Keshe, how serious are the implications of this proposed U.S. Senate bill on Nigeria-U.S. relations now that the spotlight is on Nigeria?
Well, look, it's very serious, particularly because this is being initiated by senators in the House, and if it goes through the House, it certainly will go through it will go straight to the president for implementation, and the president will sign off for it. So what we have, the action that the Nigerian government has initiated it's the right thing that to be done, and they should have actually done this rather than some of the noisy defense they were making. Look, I've always said this, whether people like to hear it or not. The truth of the matter is that we do not live in isolation. We live in a global village where news travel, faster than ever before in our lifetime. And so you cannot you cannot sit down here in Nigeria and be saying that those in Washington do not know what they are saying or what they are talking about. But believe it or not, they probably know more than you do know. And they listen to news, they get information from people, particularly those who are affected. So denying this thing is not the right way to go. It's just as they have done, decide to engage the United States. And by the way, this is not the first time we are close to being declared a country of concern. When I was Permanent Secretary, I think 2009, we had under, I think Secretary Clinton was the Secretary of State then. We had the same problem. We heard that Nigeria a recommendation was going to be made for Nigeria to be declared a country of concern. Fortunately, at the time I got that news, I was set to travel to Washington, and I called that mission that, look, the group that made the recommendation, I'm trying to remember their name now, there was a committee attached to the State Department. The group that made the recommendation, I asked the embassy that, look, I'm coming, will they be ready for a meeting with me to find out exactly why they want to declare us a country of concern, And I got a message back just before I left the country that, yes, they were prepared to meet with me. And interestingly enough, for you to understand the importance they attach to this issue, one of the members lived in California. He flew from California to Washington. It's about 10 hours flights. He flew to attend a 1 hour, 30 minutes meeting with a team from Nigeria to resolve this issue. And I made a case. And their concern was very simple. And I undertake to look into their concern and re-invited them back to Nigeria. And they came back to Nigeria and everything went well. And That was where that matter ended. So I'm glad that the federal government is negotiating with, with the United States, and they're out there to tell their own side of the story and persuade, But even more significantly is the fact that we need to pay attention, and this has been said by many people. It's not just a question of having an ambassador in Washington as of today. We also need to strengthen our missions. When you go to Washington and take a look at the diplomatic list, you will see that some countries devote about 25 officers to the Congress, while Nigeria devotes 1 officer to the Congress. How on earth can 1 officer cover the Senate and the Congress? It's actually impossible to do a good job. So I sincerely hope that every time we say this is a lesson, but we don't appear to learn anything from the lessons. But I hope that the negotiations going on with Washington, or the talks with Washington, would work out well and will not be declared a country of concern.
All right. The Nigerian House of Reps plans a formal diplomatic protest, and they are proposing a joint Nigeria-US fact-finding mission on religious freedom. What do you make of this, and what would that protest
look? Listen. The House of Assembly should please stay out of this completely and allow the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to do its job. They have no experience in this matter. They just want to undertake a trip. And I'll say it sincerely, they should stay out of this and allow the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to do its job. As I said, we've gone through this before. The ministry is sufficiently experienced, and the House of Assembly should not be looking for every opportunity to travel and to go and engage in issues that
Ambassador
they practically have no experience to deal with.
Ambassador Keshi, they might argue that since this has drawn the attention of the American legislature through Senator Ted Cruz, that maybe interfacing from parliamentary to parliamentary level could suffice.
I maintain that this is not their responsibility. That is why we have missions all over the world. Let them allow the missions to deal with this. Let them allow the Minister of Foreign Affairs to deal with this. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is sufficiently experienced enough to deal with this issue. Okay? In fact, what they should be doing is working with the president to send ambassadors, working with the president to provide funding for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and for the missions to enable them to do their job, not for them to travel. Look, if you know what these guys do when they travel, if you know what they do when they travel, so for goodness sake, yeah, if they want to travel, they can go. It's their prerogative. They have the funding to do that. This is why it's so ironic. Our officials have funding to travel all over the world, but they don't have funding to fund the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and its missions that are right on the ground to do the job. So I will appeal to them, let them stay out of it for the time being and allow the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the missions in Washington to do their job. They know what to do.
Okay.
And they can engage them. As I said to you, if in 2029 we resolve this within, look, I got that information, as I said, as I was about to set out for Washington for another meeting. And this was the ministry, the embassy got the information and then transmitted it to headquarters and resolved it with a matter of 3-4 days. So for goodness sake, let them live, let them allow. It's not too much of a serious issue to engage these people and tell our story or tell our own side of the story. We've already made publication. We've already issued press releases. All we need to do is face-to-face conversation. And for your information, also, these guys might not be able to do quite a number of things. For one reason, Washington also worked with a number of consultants, lobbyists. How do you think that this became an interest to members of the Congress and members of the House who have never visited Nigeria? How do you think? Think for a second. How did this become of interest to members of the Congress who have never visited Nigeria, who probably can't identify Nigeria on the world map? It's because those involved, those who raised the issue with them, probably used lobbyists to push the issue forward. So for guys in the National Assembly saying that they are going to no. They
So
have
so
better things
maybe,
to do
I mean,
at home.
just to
And I
clarify
believe
that,
to
it says
stay
the
at
House
home.
has directed its Foreign Affairs Committee, Security and Intelligence, Interior Information, etc., in conjunction with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Nigeria's embassy in Washington, D.C., to file a formal diplomatic protest with the sponsors of the bill and relevant U.S. congressional committees.
Let me ask you a question to ask them. Let me ask you a question to ask them. Please, could you ask those guys in the House if they have called the Minister of Foreign Affairs to brief them extensively on the issue before they took that decision?
Well, I'm sure that's a question. I'm sure that's a question we're going to ask them. But also,
I work in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Yes, look, I work in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for many years. I engaged this same house, you know, not only when I was a permanent secretary, even when I was national coordinator for the diaspora affairs. I engaged the house, so I know the house very well. I know how they work. And I'm asking you, have they engaged, have they invited the foreign minister to brief them before they took that decision? How did they arrive at that decision without the involvement of the Minister of Foreign Affairs?
okay.
So please ask them. If they said they have briefed them, so I will know what I said, if they have been briefed by the ministry.
Okay, Ambassador
You don't just sit down and take, look, this is where we talk of cooperation and coordination, you know, in the management of state affairs. When you get such an information, the first thing you do is you invite the Minister of Foreign Affairs to come and brief us about the issue. And that briefing will constitute the basis for your recommendations or for your decisions.
All right.
If the ministry has not briefed you and this is the decision you have had, okay, whatever they want to do, they are the Lord and Master of Nigeria today. So they are free to do whatever they want to do.
All right. Also, maybe
but again, I maintain that the Minister of Foreign Affairs can resolve this without anybody, you know, getting involved and saying they want to engage Parliament to Parliament. For goodness sake.
All right. You were talking about the
ministry to try his best.
You were talking about the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and you know the report is that he, in his insecurity report, that Yusuf Toga has not admitted to the killing of Christians. Is that something that maybe should have been spoken to? As you know, we're seeing here that there have been claims, rejected claims that Christians in Nigeria are being targeted. Is that an issue that should actually be probed and looked into?
You know, sometimes the way government communicates its information creates unnecessary problem for government itself. Look, I cannot, if you ask the Catholic Church, for example, they provide you, you know, an empirical evidence of how many Catholic priests, you know, have been killed, you know, all over this country to start with. So where you have evidence like this, it's not a question of denying that, no, it's not happening, or making this argument that, oh, many people are being killed. No, you just go to marshal your argument with facts and figures and present to them. And not just to deny, yes, Christians are being killed, there's no doubt, but the truth of the matter also remains that it is not Christians alone that are being killed. In some of the places that the bandits have, look, bandits do not identify Christians when they hijack a bus. They don't. So Christians and Muslims are being killed. But you see, the larger argument to be made, which I am not sure they want to make, is the general insecurity in Nigeria that has led to this perpetual killing of innocent citizens in the country. And if there's anything, issues like this makes it even more imperative for us to end this cycle of violence and insecurity in Nigeria. There is no way anybody can justify the fact that we've been fighting insecurity for 15 years. We are not at war, but we are so insecure that technically we are at war.
Okay, Ambassador Juka, let me just get your comments on this. Lack of ambassadorial appointments. 3 years into this administration, no, 2 years plus, I beg your pardon, into administration, and no one has been appointed so far so good. Do you think this in any way also has an effect into this particular story that the U.S. is interested in? Because you've talked about the Ministry of Foreign Affairs if there was also had ambassadors or who would also gather together, shed more light into this situation, looking at the experiences. Do you think this would have in any way helped? That's one. And because we're also out of time. Go on. Yeah, go ahead. Let me allow you to react to that question first.
Ambassador has a wider reach and a wider responsibility. And in some of these major countries of the world, it's even sometimes very difficult for ambassadors of small countries to have access to that high, office. So you can imagine what it is like not to even have an ambassador at all. Look, Professor Akinyemi told a story when he was Director General of NIA. He led a team to Moscow. It was that the organization they went to meet with in Moscow, had arranged a kind of summit or whatever it was that which gave them the opportunity at that time to see the president. I think it was Brezhnev or somebody at that time. So when they got to Moscow, the ambassador at that time pleaded to be part of that thing because he's been in the country for about 3 years. He's never set his eyes on or met, the chairman of the Politburo, which was then the leading person in the Soviet Union in those days.
All right.
In Washington, it's even worse. All ambassadors deal with the Department of African Affairs, in the State Department. Now, so a situation where you find out that in some countries, ambassadors even have challenges as a result of the protocol. You are now having a situation where you do not even have ambassadors at all. So the reach of the Charge d'Affaires becomes even more limited, which makes it imperative that, look, we need to find a way to put ambassadors back to our missions.
And well, we completely agree with you, Ambassador Joe Keshi. Thank you for joining us this morning on this conversation. We look forward to speaking with you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.